I would say you should expect 99% probability that you will find a calculate the derivative using the limit definition of a derivative. That was 2.1 and 2.2. So limit definition of derivative. So use that definition to calculate a derivative. You should certainly expect to see some questions that involve applying the derivative rules. Derivative rules like the product rule, the power rule, the sum rule, quotient rule, and the chain rule. And we have trig derivatives for all 6 trig functions. You will not need to know derivative of natural log or derivative of e to the x. That would be for exam 3. You might be expected to calculate not only the derivative, but maybe a second derivative or maybe a third derivative. So you might be asked to calculate higher derivatives. And then continuing with the calculations, you should expect to have to use implicit differentiation, calculate dy dx for an equation involving x's and y's. And a topic that kept popping up in almost every single section in Chapter 2, there was almost always at least one question that said, find the equation of a tangent line. So those are calculation type questions that you might have. You should also expect a related rates question. And I don't put that under calculations because you actually have to build your relationship on that one. And so I kind of put that in its own separate category. But you should certainly expect a related rates type question. All right, and beyond straight up calculations, you shouldn't be too surprised to see at least 1 or 2 questions where you're asked to either give an explanation or give an example of something. So things that would fall under explanation/example category. Well, like homework number 4, I think it was, the one that I just handed back to you, being able to describe the different parts of the limit definition of a derivative. And the other example/explanation question that I could think of when I'm thinking of these types of questions is understanding the difference between continuous versus differentiable. So the topics would be continuous versus differentiable. And a question that I might ask is, draw an example of a function that is continuous but is not differentiable, or is continuous and is differentiable. Or I might ask you to draw a picture of a function that is not continuous but is differentiable. And if I ask you to do that, then you should smile and write down on your paper, none exist. Okay? So there's never a function, if a function is not continuous, then there's no way it can be differentiable. Okay, so that's your explanation/examples. You may be asked to show how to come up with the derivative rules. So in other words, show or derive the derivative formulas for for any of the four trig functions, tangent x, cotangent x, secant x, or cosecant x, you will not be asked to derive the formulas for the derivative of sine or cosine. Okay? But these four, by using the quotient rule, those would be valid questions. And last but not least, is that you may very well be asked to draw f prime when you are given a graph of f. So given a picture of f, sketch a graph of f prime. Okay, so these are the types of questions that you should expect on this exam. Are there any questions about these expectations?
For the first one,